going to be at 4 o'clock. Okay. And in fact, that was one of the things I was going to talk about. So, I was just going to talk about where to have it. Because right now we're in the council chambers. Okay, one more minute and then we'll start. Let me turn this off. This is great. All right, I'm going to start. It says 3:59, but okay. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Public Arts Commission for Thursday, January 10th, 2019 at 4 p.m. Jay, would you take the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Brenner?
Here.
Commissioner Gladstone?
Present.
Commissioner Merrigan?
Here.
Commissioner Murray?
Here.
Commissioner Pritchard?
Here.
Vice Chair Yanni?
Present.
And Chair Sheffer.
Here. Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to accept the agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll second.
Very good. Anyone have any comments, changes? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Public Arts Commission and agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time the item is heard by the Commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the Commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 5 minutes is assigned for each speaker, and I see we have no speakers. Now, we have 2 sets of minutes, which I'm afraid no one's had a chance to read.
And not December minutes?
We have November 8th and
November 29th.
And
the special
November
meeting
9th,
from November 29th.
I believe we can have the balance of the minutes at the 24th meeting if we add that to the agenda.
Should we do that and all of them take these home? I think, just look them over quickly. I find what happens is so much has happened since then that they're not necessarily up to date. But okay, so we have a really good opportunity today. We have very little in the way of action items, none really. And at the last meeting, we approved an awful lot of projects that everyone's working on. And so I think it's a very good opportunity to make sure that we all know what's going on. So I brought a couple of updates that some of you sent me, but 2 things you might not know about. One is we were asked, this is coming around, we were asked by Desert X if we could help them pay the fee to have their one installation in Palm Springs, which is called Western Flag, and it's across the street from the Visitor Center. It's a large video screen, right, with a flag, and they have to apply for a land use permit. And since we've had a lot of discussions about paying mural fees for organizations and just trying to sort of grease the wheels of the permit process, the city asked if we would do this, and I said that we would, but I would like just to make sure that no one on the commission has any objections to this. It's the sideways pieces of paper. And perhaps, I don't know, Mara, do you know more about it? The image changes so that it's...
It does. I haven't seen this, but I did see, I have seen his work before, and, you know, ideally it is like a flagpole that just kind of spews this sort of ongoing kind of smoke, colored smoke or air or something like that. But
it's large.
But right? This is great. This is like a nice solution. This is like a nice pollution-free solution to Yeah, this artist is really interesting. I like this idea of, humans interact on the environment in many different ways, and a flag is a way of conquering a land and sort of saying it's yours. And so this is really interesting to have this, as you enter Palm Springs, and it certainly suits, I think, Desert X's mission and the kind of conversation it wants people to have and the sort of thinking process. And it also just looks like a really nice work. So
Right.
I would support
It's also the
our support of
only
this.
one in Palm Springs. Desert X explored a whole lot of other sites, and between having to be handicapped accessible and, just parking, I mean, there's all kinds of zoning and planning issues. So I was glad we were able to get this one, because if they don't start soon, Desert X starts February 9th, I think. So
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, where's the location?
across the street from the visitor center, up on the way to the 10,
Oh, okay.
way up there.
Like where the tramway enter.
Yes,
There,
right.
okay.
And that did solve the parking problem if someone wanted to park and walk across the street. On the other hand, when was the last time you parked to look at a billboard? It's sort of, I don't think it requires stopping. But
So it's in that space where they were gonna build houses 10 years ago?
I think it's some empty
or s-
lots,
okay.
right.
So it's like across the tramway road from the visitor center?
I had the feeling it was across 111, but we didn't get the application that
I
shows
see.
the map,
Right, okay.
but I'll make sure that they put us, and they now consider us a sponsor of Desert X, so. that was
And so what are
easy
we
to
helping
do.
them with?
$964 of
Mural fee or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
public zoning, land use permit,
Okay.
okay? And the other thing is that Commissioner Pritchard read that Desert X was soliciting what they called parallel projects, and he submitted our mural by Ryan Campbell, and so why don't you just, I made a copy of your application, and we were approved. So
Yeah, it was
we're-
actually thanks to Mara forwarding an email from Yaza McKenzie at Desert X. So I worked with Ryan to put together the proposal for them, which is included in this package with the picture of his mural, because it outlines the time frame starting just prior to the beginning of Desert X, running through while Desert X is happening, with participation, education, all of the features we talked about when we approved the mural last week. So they said yes, definitely would be a
That's great. So we
parallel
had some-
project. And of course, our wonderful social media person, Madalena Garza, was already in touch with them to keep us full speed ahead with the social media presence.
Actually, Madalena, if you would like to come and sit up here, this is all discussion items, so I think a lot of them have to do with you. So. Okay, and there's one other thing on my report, and that is that the acting director of the Art Museum forwarded this letter to me from someone who would like to, they saw the sign that said Imagine Art Here, and they just happened to have a piece of art, this XO thing that they would like to install on the empty space across from the museum. And I just made a copy of it in case, if anyone is interested in pursuing this, we can do it. It's not clear if it's a loan or something. I don't think it's something that he wants us to buy, maybe just be able to install it there. But it's only if someone is interested in pursuing it. So you could think about it and let me know. It's kind of fun. And the last thing I just wanted to talk about is the Sephora Mural, which we saw at the last meeting. They submitted their application, but the notice of public hearing notices didn't go out in time for us to vote on it today. So I told them that our study session in 2 weeks, we would do what we did the last time, and that is have a special meeting for that one item and then turn it into a study session. Unfortunately, because it's not our regular meeting time, the only place we can meet is the council chambers, which seems like not a great place to have a discussion. So if you like, I found out that the Desert Arts Center room is available again, which seems like a better place to have a study session. So if everyone's agreed, I will set that up. And it's a nice way to sort of call attention to the ties that we have to them. I mean,
Madam Chair, the notices for the 24th, the 10-day notice to have the mural considered, had it at the council chambers. And so I'm not sure if we will be able to change that location.
Okay.
Oh, the notice that was sent out.
Did they send the notice out?
They sent the notices out, yes.
Okay, because we haven't gotten them yet. When did they send them out?
I saw today,
Oh,
actually,
okay.
yes.
It came in today?
Yeah, I was copied on an email, so.
Oh, okay. They've generally been mailing a copy to us, which would be a big help, then we'd know if anybody else got them.
I didn't get it.
No. Did you get them the last time for?
Yeah.
Yes,
I did.
okay. So,
Maybe we could meet in the council, but like set up a table instead or something? Like,
Yeah,
'cause there's
it's-
room in the center there, right?
We can set
Isn't
up a
it?
table. Yeah.
okay, that would be better, because we can't really have a conversation with,
When you're not facing each other.
unless is there a small conference room? Didn't you, that we could go after we have the public meeting part?
We can see if either, well, this one wasn't
This
available.
one wasn't, but it's just us and a couple of consultants, so.
We'll look into that.
Okay, it'd just be nice not to be in the council chamber. And if it's all right to move the public hearing, then that would also be
Okay.
good.
The email also said it was to approve the Wexler.
So that
The-
mix up.
Oh, we did that
No,
last.
The email that
It's
you
an
sent
email from
the other day,
Oh,
talking about the special meeting, it said something about the Wexler's mural.
I think what I said was that's what we did at the last special meeting.
Oh, okay.
At least that's
All
what
right.
I meant to
But you-
say.
but you meant
But it
for
was
this
on
one,
the
right?
council
Okay.
consent agenda last night.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't
'cause
watch
we
the
already-
meeting, but I
Yeah,
assume
we voted
nobody
on
it. We already voted
pulled
on
it
it.
off or
Yeah,
anything, right?
okay.
Just so you're aware, the council wanted confirmation that the vote was sufficient. You'll recall the vote was 3 for the project, 2 against, and 1 abstention. So they wanted to confirm with the city attorney that that was sufficient to pass the item. I had consulted with the city clerk after we took the vote. He said it does seem to be correct, but they wanted to dig a little further.
Okay. And that was on,
That was last night.
right, but we don't have minutes that have that vote, right?
No, we don't have those minutes here.
Okay. Well, we actually, well, did the council pass it? They did, didn't they? Last night.
They said approved, subject to confirmation from the city attorney.
Okay. So they pulled it off the consent agenda?
Yes,
to
they
say
did.
that, okay. Well, let's find out, and otherwise, that one, there's not a big time constraint because it's already done. So we can bring it back at the next meeting if they want us to. But the Sephora one,
That's the one we're gonna talk
right,
about on
and
the
it's
24th.
going to be,
okay.
and, you know, not the whole presentation necessarily again, but the whole discussion, because by then the public will have been notified.
Sorry, just to clarify, so the 24th meeting will not only be allocated to, we're going to be discussing a
Right.
number of topics.
Right. This
And
is
taking
just one,
action
no.
on certain
One's a
topics.
special meeting, so that we can
Just to vote
take
Sephora.
action to vote on the Sephora, and then
Okay.
that's immediately followed by a study session where we
Okay.
talk about the Dyson and Womack.
So, you know, it's 15 minutes or something to do Sephora.
and I'll try to get that.
Guys,
Do you think it will be, well,
Ambitious.
I mean,
Never
we have
15 minutes.
seen it, so,
okay.
Are we going to have to take action on any of these things before our February
we've
meeting?
actually done, that it would help to have the minutes, but if we had the agenda from last time, we approved contracts. This one, it's, it's here as just as a discussion item.
Right.
And we can just have a sense of the meeting that we approve that.
I mean, I'm just thinking if there's even some of this little stuff that we have to get done, I mean, I think we can go through it pretty quickly, but, because this seems like it's very timely that they would need this.
Yes, oh, they do.
And we can't do any action on it today.
Well, it's on our agenda.
The category is discussion/action.
Okay.
Oh, so can we take an action on
yes.
this?
So
Okay.
all right, I will make a motion that we pay the $964 land use permit fee for the Desert X project.
Do you want to do that now, or when it comes up at the, later
We
in the
could.
agenda under
Should we
that
just do it
section?
later? Okay.
Okay.
We'll try to
All
follow
right, so
all
that, just,
the,
I just didn't want some of this stuff, if it needed to be done,
you're right.
if we had to squeeze it into that time frame, just that we knew.
Right, no, that
And hoping
really
that we
has-
weren't having to do very much there.
Right.
So that we'd have the study session.
And we'll try, nothing else is
Okay.
time barred other
Okay.
than Sephora, so
Okay,
we don't have to put anything else on it.
okay, good.
Which reminds me, we didn't get a questionnaire, did we? No. Did you get it?
Update you on
Okay.
this when we
All
get
right,
to.
we'll do it in order. I'm sorry, I'm a nonlinear thinker. I have trouble going from A to B.
All right, so was that the,
One question about
Yes.
this, since we were talking about it.
It's the last thing on so we'll just wait and
all right, so
we'll
we're
do it in
moving,
order, in
we're
case
moving
anyone
from
was coming.
report from the chair on to C, discussion/action items?
Yes.
Okay, and
So-
Commissioner Pritchard will go first with an update on the Michael Bernberg sale.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair Sheffer, did you have a chance to print out the schematic for the scaled-down version of Michael Bernberg's
Oh, no,
piece?
I didn't. I'm sorry. I thought I did that.
That's
No.
okay. Well, as we discussed and voted in the last meeting, Michael Bernberg is now doing a scaled-down version of the change piece installation, approximately 5 feet high by 11, with 2 wings for support. So the budget scaled down to $13,000, which is what we approved at our last meeting. We're on track for completion and installation by the end of January, which was also voted on in our last meeting. We have a slight hitch in that the Virgin Hotel site, which Michael Braun promised to us like last October or August, something like that, is now not going to be ready for 2 months. So a couple of options wanted to present that we reconsider, as we voted on once, although it wasn't an official vote, that we install it on the art park part of the park, at least temporarily, being that it's ready now. So it would be installed and in place for Modernism Week. It would sort of tie in the pit with the top part of the park, give it a little bit more presence, and then we could consider moving it after the fact because it's now a much more movable piece. Or we could consider having Michael Bernberg to simply deliver it to us and take the installation part out of the budget and then determine where it should go after it's in our possession.
Does it require a concrete slab? Is
It
it
does not.
attached to it? It's not? Okay.
Yeah, the piece is now, just for the, and I should have printed, but the name of the schematics, it now has flanges on each of the wings of the support and across, so it can be installed on like a ground surface and or concrete.
So it's freestanding.
It's freestanding.
So it's like
Yeah, you
bolted
showed us
down
a
or
photo
something?
last
Yeah, bolted, yeah. You can either do it through the ground, or as we would do if we were putting it on the Virgin site, it would be anchored into concrete with concrete anchor bolts. But with the art pit, because I don't know what the distance is of the depth of the dirt, but it can actually go through that into the concrete pad there, so it would be bolted as well. But it's a much easier, you just sort of create the hole, bolt it down, fill the hole. And then we could at some later point, once we determine perhaps a different use for the art park site, then relocate the change piece somewhere else.
Any risk
Did you
of anyone pulling up with a truck and grabbing it? Is it heavy, or is it, if it's not
It would
bolted
take a
down?
team to do
Team,
that.
okay.
You know, it's still a fairly substantially heavy piece. It's an easier install and deinstall and move.
So you're talking about installing this on the lot where we had the Imagine and with Art here and Sophia Enriquez's.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. I do not support that. Right now, I don't know the details, but right now, literally right now, there is conversation for Desert X to do some kind of a performance project on that site. And I am confident that if this work is there,
Yeah.
the artist will not do that.
Okay.
So I don't really know the details of it, but I just will say that it's a really important artist, and I
Oh, sure.
really feel
That's good
like
to
I would
know.
like us to keep that option open. I can certainly update everybody on January 24th and see if that. But I just feel like there's already so much stuff in that area that
Yeah.
might preclude being able to do something like that. So that's my feeling.
And
Oh, sure.
I think it would be good to have it on the Virgin Hotel site. I mean, we've been invited to put some art there, and I don't know when it will be ready. It keeps
Well,
getting put
now
off.
it's like,
He just
didn't
got
they
a
just ask for
2-year.
another-
Well, they
and
asked
he
for a
asked for another
3-year,
extension
and he
or
got
something?
2 years extension.
Yeah, because the
But a
thing
lot of
is-
talk about his cleaning up the site
Right.
and the fence and.
Yeah, because see, that's the thing, as I said, in our discussions last year, we were supposed to have possession of the site like 6 months ago. And in the last couple of weeks, pestering Michael Braun for a timeline on when they were going to at least move things. And then we had originally talked about doing it on the southeast corner, where there's currently a trailer and other major equipment. So every time I go by there, I sort of look at the site again and realize that it would be easier to do on the southwest corner, but that still requires a lot of, well, not a lot, but at least a little bit of movement of some stuff, because the fences are all falling over and whatever. So having only found out about the 2-month time period for the full clearing of the site just today, we could certainly inquire with Michael Braun if we could at least get that corner cleaned up for the end of the month or the next 2 weeks, so Barber could do the installation. I'm
think
still
that
fine
would-
with that. It was just sort of, okay, what are our alternatives?
Yeah.
What if, Modernism last year, when they had camp, they didn't go all the way to the corner towards the art museum, and that corner they kind of filled with mulch and stuff like that. But the area was like prepared, like semi-prepared. What if that might be an idea of?
Sounds like it would be crowded though with camp, which is
They were,
going
like,
back there.
It depends on where they are, but there was like a lot of space there between
Mm-hmm.
camp and the corner.
So there's a big pile
I
of
don't
dirt
remember.
now, which might change where they can put camp. And that. on
Well,
the-
also, isn't there going to be some work starting on the park somewhat
I
soon?
don't know, do we?
Doesn't seem like it.
I know they're gonna wait till after Modernism Week, but is there, I mean,
I don't recall the schedule at this point. It's changed and
are
been
there
put off a bit.
contracts and stuff? Has it been bid? I don't remember
I would think so.
seeing
I
it.
recall Marcus saying it may actually start sooner than the latest estimate, so it may be coming up. But that doesn't help.
Okay, there's an awfully large pile of dirt. It's gonna be
It
interesting.
keeps moving.
It does,
I
and
wanna-
so does all, the timelines and for grit development too. So I think
Well-
if we can split the difference and.
Yeah, well, perhaps a sensible thing to do is for me to sit down with Michael Braun to see if the southwest corner could be made available to us by the end of the month, so Bernberg could just continue on with his in-place schedule to do the installation on that corner.
And actually, the art museum, Alicia went over to talk about putting the Betty Gold sculpture on that corner, and they did seem to feel that it could be ready, and that was because she needed to move it quickly. But I think they've decided not to do it.
Yeah, that's being moved to the sort of corner of Museum Drive, and when it bends and goes towards Bellardo, it's going in that kind of corner there. That's
Or another
By
sort of
O'Donnell?
parcel of fun?
By
by
O'Donnell.
O'Donnell. That's where we're
On the
going to put it.
museum
I
parking
think
lot?
it's
or
city.
the-
I think it's actually like a weird little city.
No, it's actually
Corner.
a grit development property.
Oh, it's a that's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
That,
Because it's just that little narrow, no, not that one?
it's the area
It's where
that
the
sort of
golf course-
abuts the museum's parking lot and the golf course.
Yeah,
There's
there's
just
like a
sort of
little
like
tiny space
bend.
there
There's
where
a
the.
little space
Oh.
there.
And there's an easement to get to the O'Donnell, but I think it's museum land.
Can I encourage us to maybe look at the sites that Commissioner Yanni and Edmondson, I think, identified throughout the city, like near the airports? There were a lot
I
of like.
still like that's what I was
I
going to
mean,
say.
I mean, I think we've kind of done a lot of that work about thinking about other sites throughout the city that could be useful, and this seems like actually the kind of thing that would work well in a space where you have vehicles moving and.
And
So-
the airport, I mean, I just think it's a really good site. We've talked about this site at the corner of Vistacino and Farrell. That's where the airport is. We looked at it, right?
yeah.
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 It's sort of like it's like a little berm there. It kind of goes up a little bit, so it would have good visibility. And it could be, and it's a movement, and it's perfect because the airport is like right behind it.
Yeah.
right?
And there's a lot of, it's
there's
a
a lot
very
of
busy
activity
traffic.
there,
There's
yeah.
a couple of
Bus.
commuter bus stop things there, so it would get a lot of visibility.
It's one
Is
of
that
my
where
favorite
it's
strips of, I like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and-
really needs something there.
There's
And
just
this-
grass now. I mean,
This would sort of stand out. And again, now that it's
and it fits
it's a-
with the airport and everything.
Right, and now that it's a manageable size, we certainly could, it's something we could install right away, and then, and the trouble is, it's not, anyone's fault, that the timetable for the whole grit development and just keeps,
Yeah,
are you saying Vistacino and Farrell or Ramon?
Vistacino. It's like the north end of the airport, like
Oh,
towards
okay, I
where
guess,
the.
North
I guess I don't
east.
consider the airport is actually there, but.
right,
Yeah.
that's
It's like
just
it's like the barren part of the
Airport,
airport, right?
right.
Yeah, it's like.
It's true, you see it on
Yeah, but it's
Vistacino,
a busy intersection.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
it
how
would
I
have,
drove here.
you could put it like sort of, diagonal to the corner or whatever, catty corner to the corner. So it would be facing sort of northwest, yeah.
Or like that.
And so you'd see it from Farrell, you'd have a great view from Vistacino heading east, right? And with good lighting, it would be nice at night.
It does
and stuff.
rise there.
Yeah, so it's a nice little, it would
It's
set
just-
it up
yeah.
nicely.
Right.
It's one of those spots that screams "put art on me."
yeah. We tried to
I
put-
think.
I believe,
And
Mayor
who-
Bogert did.
Right. And whose
Didn't
property
fly.
is it?
I think it's ours.
Ours?
I think it's
Yeah, it's the
city
city,
property.
right? And
So
the
it's-
whole
so you can just
airport
do it?
is. I think we should vote to do it.
Al, you had a
and-
comment?
Yes, another void, I think, in the system is on Indian, coming into Palm Springs, Rosa Parks, that area would be perhaps a nice place for some art.
I know, we never got anything from Miralon, right? That new development that was the old development.
They changed the name, right? Which is it? Is it
Yeah.
Avalon now, or it was?
I think it's called Miralon. It was Avalon, now it's called Miralon, right? But they never came to us with a thing, yeah.
I think years
They
ago
haven't
when it was
started
Avalon, and then
They were gonna do a
Made a Philip
big
Smith.
cube piece with lighting and all this stuff. That's like 10 years ago,
but
right?
it's the same problem with Asina, and that is it's different owners
Owners,
now.
right.
And
But I agree, I think that that
that's
would be a
all
nice
gated.
entry thing. It's all gated now, right? I think what's happening is these developments are trying to squeeze as much stuff in as possible, and they're not leaving space for art, which is fine. I mean, if they put it, as long as they put it into the commission, but I think that would be a nice, some sort of like entry
So do we need to take action
yes.
on like a place or a
I think we
location?
should,
Yeah.
and then we should find out if there's any sort of, we don't need a permit, but we do need permission. I mean, we need,
We don't
maybe
know
even
exactly.
council to approve it, but
So
we-
is this site that you described, is that a city-owned lot or is it a private lot?
Currently, there is a city sign that says Palm Springs
Right,
in the middle.
uh-huh.
Along the road there, I believe, is city.
I
That
think
runs
the
into.
lot is private.
I'm sorry?
I think that sign might be on private property.
The Palm Springs
Yeah,
side.
that's,
Mm.
but I
I'm
could
not
be
sure, I
wrong.
don't know. It's
Yeah.
in the middle.
We can check, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can I make a motion to move forward with installing the Michael Bernberg sculpture as revised on either the identified airport lot, the previously identified airport adjacent lot, or the site on Indian Canyon that Commissioner Murray describes, pending like an
Right.
assessment
Availability.
of availability.
For example, if we find out that for some reason the airport site is not available, I don't know, underground wiring, something, I mean, there may be some reason, then we could move
Oh, I
on to
know.
that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Is everyone okay with that?
Do we
One of
have-
those
Do
two
you
locations.
need me to second your motion? I second the motion.
Okay, let's just restate it. You want to, you took it?
Jay was writing it.
Okay. Tom is so good.
so
at
it's-
this.
Install the Michael Bernberg sculpture as modified on either the airport lot or the site that Commissioner Murray described.
That may not be specific enough.
On Indian Canyon,
on
not to
on
pass
Indian
Rosa Parks.
Canyon and
Why
Rosa
don't, why
Parks.
don't we?
We can identify
I think
and
we
add,
should,
like, a-
we should just put the airport corner in for now.
Let's put the
But we
airport
have a
in.
meeting in 2 weeks, and if we hear that we can't do it, and you go drive by and find out what the cross street is.
Yeah.
That's a good plan.
Okay.
I'll
I mean,
amend the
right.
motion.
But we are trying to get it delivered from Michael Bernberg by the end of the month or not much longer, so,
By the end of the month,
yeah.
literally a couple of weeks.
But
That's
it's
great.
grass, I think, which means it probably would be quite easy to install by just sinking it into the,
Yeah, that was part of when we had the discussion with him about the scaling it down and the ease of movement. He assured us that it would be easy to install and deinstall anywhere, be it dirt, grass, or
Right.
concrete.
it's also a place where nobody's gonna walk by it, and nobody's gonna get close to it, which I think, though I will never forget Commissioner Gladstone's method for keeping people from climbing on sculptures by planting cactuses around them. We could do that if we had to. Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, passes 7-0. Okay,
And that street is Tramview Road, between Tramview Road and Rosa Parks, just
Okay.
FYI.
oh, okay.
Let's do a road trip.
Yeah, it was fun when we did it before.
Yeah, it was.
So then, just to back up to that for a moment, then should I touch base with Jay about the availability or access to that property? Just between
Sure,
you and
it
Carol?
would probably involve the airport, and I suspect someone there may say, we need to consult with the FAA.
Because it's at the end of the runway.
Right,
It's in the buffer
right.
zone.
Might be
But
tough.
it is not,
But-
it's outside of the fence of the
Yeah, but
airport.
all that land there, it's not developed because it's part of the buffer zone on the airport. So
There
might be
is,
something
on one
with the
corner,
land.
there's the Welcome to Palm Springs sign, which is about the same size. So, I mean, it has some
But
precedent.
feel free to follow up
We'll
with me, and
find
then we'll
out.
get it going.
Okay,
It would be a great place for it.
it would be a nice sort of
It's such a nice
entry.
backdrop.
And if we're unable to, we can remove it from our potential locations list.
Right.
Sure.
Which is definitely worthwhile, because we still have some,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, set with Michael Bernberg. Commissioner American, just, oh, here, I copied the picture you sent me of how this was.
That's good.
One of each. They don't
Oh, these are ones we're showing.
reproduce very well, but why don't you explain what this is? I'll give you one.
So
this is
I guess
good.
two things to update you guys on. So, yesterday and the day before, we hung, the beginning of the show, the student show, at the high school in the Art Institute Gallery. So, originally, the idea was to use the map. The map is too big for the area, so we made a show about the map, and about people interacting with it. So the student class, master class, is going to start on, it's going to go from Monday to Thursday next week. And then the idea from that class is to have the students create their own piece of public art in felt that interacts with the felt map, and they'll make their own like square piece of land for it to land on. So they're gonna we're gonna go over what public art is and how the map came into being, and then the students are going to think about how they would create a piece of public art and what that would be. They're going to end up with the class with writing a paragraph, like an artist statement about their piece, and then their piece of public art. And then we'll add it to this show.
Oh, great.
And then it will move to,
Then we can recycle, we can use pieces of it, or we can move the entire thing, or we use throughout the rest of the year. So
and we're
everything is made to like come off the wall and be able to be repositioned.
And we're going to try to make a brochure-sized map, not unfolded, I mean a card, with, that we could put out by the pit and by the house. That during Modernism Week there are 32 tours a day of that guest house, like every 15 minutes. So lots of people will be coming there, and we're going to try to see if we can put a replica of the map on the Soul Cycle or whatever it is that just isn't happening. Though there is a restaurant that looks like it's going to open, and have a map that people could take. So what we really need to do is decide what are the 10 or 12 walkable pieces of art that you ought to go see while you're downtown. And it could be, it'd be fun if it was a mural or two and a couple of sculptures, and the Kauai Indian, the woman, which apparently was the very first piece of public art. So, but what we need, these pictures that Madalena has taken of people interacting with the art are, I think, much more fun than static pictures of the art. So if we could somehow all pick, 10 or so to put on this card, and also for the Chamber of Commerce would like to put it in their season guide. So, but it's sort of an evolving exhibit. So it's resting here, and we're hoping that if we get a little more publicity for it, that people there's an awful lot of standing in line for the film festival. People could just take a look. There's like 4 films a day over there. So, does anyone have any questions for Commissioner Merrigan about?
And then we're meeting again next week about the art show. So
Yeah.
we can have an update at the study session.
Okay. Good. Okay.
So I just wanted to, how long is that going to be up?
We can find out on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the one in,
The Palm Springs High one, just,
you know,
It's up for
until. I
It can
think
be up until whatever we want. The high school has another show going up there, I think, in April, but
Oh, okay.
I'll know on Monday.
oh, good.
Or it could move to something to do with modernism. We can keep moving.
Mhm.
But at least this month, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
for
like to
sure.
get, and we'll set up next week we'll set up with the Art Institute to have an opening for the kids.
Mhm.
So it's sort of, it's a student project, and it's sort of introducing them to public art, and then what they create can then move on to some of the other exhibits.
Yeah,
Which,
it's so exciting.
Yeah.
and also it just hit me today that it's the 30th Film Festival and the 30th, and
yeah.
Mayor Bono, I think, was responsible for both. So,
Oh,
being tied in a little bit with the film festival is a good thing.
They move a lot of people in and out of there.
Oh my God,
really.
yes, and they're showing films at the museum. I was there today with a friend, and, there's just snaking up the
Up the
stairs.
steps.
all this. But there were then hordes of people paying admission to go into the museum, so it's,
Did you see them all walking by my exhibition outside the theater? The Todd Gray exhibition?
yes, yeah.
Because I put that there for that very reason.
No, it's absolutely working. I mean, I think getting art in front of people, part of the trick of it is to, this is what my son, who's a sort of internet guru, always says, is don't expect people to come to your website. Get it to where they go anyway. And then get back to yours. So, okay, so I think we're set with Ryan. Is there anything else?
Well, unless
This
any-
has the timetable on it,
Yeah,
right?
unless any commissioners have any questions about it, but yeah, we're all pretty much set for it. The timeframe is there, starting on the 10th, the interactive. Ryan's doing his own recording of it and documentation. Madeleine will be reaching out with him as well. Desert X, et cetera, so.
Will there be any signage on the exterior of the pit, like where they put signage for the house tour?
We
Will
need
there
to-
be any? I would recommend you put something there, if possible, not only in the pit, just so that because people will look down and see it and say, "What is that?"
Mhm.
And being able to say, "Hey, you can go down there on these days and these times," could be useful. So.
Yeah, I'll have Ryan prepare something.
It would be nice to have our social media user there as well, because everyone tags the Rowan or
Right.
the museum, but they don't know that we're involved.
Mhm.
That's a good idea.
Well,
It's at
yeah,
the
there actually will,
wings.
because Ryan is going to and has agreed to paint on the wall that's partially white.
He's going to
Any
hashtag.
hashtag, whatever you recommend are the best tags for it. So that'll be
That
on
would
the.
be amazing.
And
Black, yeah.
what he thought he would do
Yes.
is he would go over sometime soon and paint Imagine Art here. And then when he's finished with the mural, by the time he's finished, it would say Art is here.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
good to
and
know.
then-
And then I think it would be fun to have a banner or two on those light posts, like they did for the Warhol show. And I know the museum's interested in maybe putting some on some of them also. So we should see if we can get that up by then. And Sarah Scheidman seems to know how to make banners. So.
I made the banner.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay, well then, you just
Gracie.
got a new job. Okay, so that should work. Okay, so now,
But I did do a poster with our hashtags for this show. I think it's really good to have that up for every thing we
Yes.
do. So I made like something that big that said, we are social follow-us at these hashtags. So.
Yeah, well, because I was saying that was one of the things we left off the very specific proposal, because it's just sort of an add-on that Ryan agreed to do for us, is the wall that will create a large poster.
One question, I saw that wall now that's partially whitewashed. Is he gonna fill it in?
I think
'Cause it's
he's gonna
kind of-
just
He's
paint
gonna-
it over.
Or just leave Because it's not very attractive how,
Well, the first chunk of it will be all painted white. And that's where the hashtag Imagine Art Here and
oh,
Art
okay,
is
so he's
Here.
gonna fill in the white,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It's a big wall, so it's hard to do something to the whole thing. Okay, so now Commissioner Gladstone, who's been talking to Dyson and Womack, Chris and Emily, is going to give us an idea of what's going to happen on the 24th.
So it'd be great to make sure that I can update them with the amount of time that would be allocated to them. I'm guessing at this point it's probably an hour and a half, given that we have some action items. It would be better to have more than that, so just a heads up, the best we can move our action items along will be great. So on the 24th, in preparation for the 24th, Dyson and Womack will be sending, I think directly to Ann or Jay, a survey. It's a Google survey, and we're asked, each of us as commissioners, to fill them out. It should only take about 20 minutes to fill out these questionnaires, and they'll provide a deadline, but this is a very important tool for them, so I encourage all of us to spend some time with it. Even though it's a quick thing, this is very important to their assessment. So currently, they're doing an assessment and review of our bylaws, of the last 3 or 4 years of reports, of all of the sort of publicly available documents about our mission and what we've done to sort of get a bigger picture sense about what this commission does and how it does what it does and how it gets to decisions. So when they come to this meeting will be a guided conversation that's based on this review of these current documents and these surveys. And the goal will be to get to an agreed upon trajectory to move forward. That said, I mean, things can change, but it's just to create a plan for moving forward for the scope 2, 3, and 4. They will come to this meeting with very specific questions about the committee's scope. And the goal is to see where the committee aligns and doesn't align, to sort of get a temperature gauge of how things work. They really want to revisit our mission statement because they want to see how to activate it, how the mission statement, right now our mission statement is just like a mission, but it doesn't really provide guidelines as how we act, how we create actions, and so that's the ultimate goal of this assessment. And ultimately, they will offer guidelines and recommendations based on these reviews, the surveys, and our meeting. So it will be a guided conversation, so they will probably provide some, we want you to think about this, but you only have a few minutes to talk about it, because the idea is really to move the conversation forward so that we are left with this, they are left with tools they can use to help generate, move into the second scope. So
Right.
is
And
that...
the ultimate goal, at least in my mind, is by May or June to have some recommendations of how we should ask the council to change the ordinance so that it operates in a way that really encourages what we want to do.
I mean, already they see a bit of a disconnect between our mission and in that it doesn't provide us with actable, it doesn't provide a map for how to act and how to take action on the things we want to do. And so that's something that they see already in their just sort of review of those materials. So that I think that's good. This will be a productive meeting, and it's really for them to get a sense of what our goals are in the context of these other documents that we've been working with and creating and repurposing for our own goals.
Okay.
Can we think of a schedule, because I have something scheduled at that time that day, which maybe I can try to move, like when our meeting would end and when they would start, so.
I'm hoping we'll have a 15-minute meeting, literally. It will be only one item, and that is the Sephora mural, because they will have met the requirement of sending out the notices, and then we can take a vote on it. I mean, we talked about it when they were here before, but we couldn't do anything until they had applied.
Because I'll be late, that's,
Well, I think it's okay. I mean, I think you bringing the survey is, really spending time with the survey will be very important, conveying what your goals are, what how you think about what the commission should be doing as a citizen and as a commissioner. So I think.
Yes, and come as soon as you can.
Yeah.
And we could also decide later in the process, if we wanted, we could take a Saturday morning or something and have 3 hours or 4 hours where we could do a lot. I mean, it's hard to fit it into that late afternoon slot, but at least we know that most people are able to be here on Thursdays at 4. So, but I think if we get some sort of framework, we could decide to spend a whole morning sometime.
I mean, the other thing is they will be coming with questions, and it will be a guided conversation, but it doesn't mean you can't revisit those questions later if you miss, say, the first half hour, and just provide that information to them. Because they're really gathering their data right now, so they can really assess things. So providing it in a conversation, whether by email or in person, I think both will work well, so.
okay, cool. Yeah, I guess just to have enough time to look at the survey to think about it.
Well, so the survey will be sent today or tomorrow.
Oh,
So
cool.
you will receive it today or tomorrow, and probably will have about a week to work on it. Again, she said it should only take about 10 to 20 minutes to fill out, but.
It will be very interesting to see. I mean, because there's rarely enough time in these meetings to really get everyone's different approach to these things. So, but I think we've made so much progress this year. It's just fun. Okay, the item 5, artistic lighting. Apparently, there was some question in the minds of the people writing the contracts, what we meant by the pit. So we've been asked to, that was the question, right? For the lighting. And I haven't heard any other questions, but next week, I'm supposed to meet with someone from procurement to just answer questions about. I mean, I imagine that these contracts are not like many of the other ones that they do. So, but from what I understand, they're all moving along, right? The contracts, they're.
Well, these are important discussions to have with the Director of Contracts and Procurement, because they do go through him, and so we'll see where we're at.
Some of it's not really clear,
Right.
as to, what.
Right.
We're so used to talking about the pit that we probably didn't realize that no one else knew what that was, so.
Right, but just looking at the minute, I mean, we talked about it on November 8th, and then I think we voted on it in December, right?
Right.
Okay.
But again, the person in procurement doesn't have the benefit of he probably didn't read the
Okay.
minutes.
Doesn't this lot have like an identifying letter number code on the planning
Well, we're
maps?
calling it southwest corner of Museum Way in Bellardo. But one
The
of
pit itself is, it is like G something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just a
on that
parcel letter.
plan, yeah.
I can't remember what it
I
is
can't
offhand.
remember what it is
Block
either. Block
F or
something
G,
or
something.
yeah.
Right. No, the bigger issue is something that we as the commission and staff have to do a better job of, and that's getting adequate bids for projects like this. I know one of the concerns that came up was if there's lights attached to a building, it becomes a public works project. And so there's a lot of minutia that has to be paid attention to, that they're very concerned that the way art crosses over into public works can become confusing, but trigger some requirements such as prevailing wage, so.
For example, if we move the Clement pieces, that would be public works in a way as to the lights that are installed there. Somebody installed those. I don't know if it was.
I don't know
the
all the
Arts
rules,
Commission.
right, but could be.
This particular lighting project, though, is on private property, and it's not attached to anything. It's set in the ground to.
Yeah, I think they had questions as to whether there are lights going onto the house also.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Good to
not
know.
our house, and, I mean.
Okay.
So, it's gonna light it, I think. But that map that was attached to the proposal just has, like, spotlights in the ground so that things would be lit, so. But, on that one, we can certainly get the contract person together with the vendor. I mean, this is a kind of specialized field to be lighting, art, so.
That's the case, that would have to be made specialized field.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to work on that, okay.
But the commission itself doesn't need to do anything at this moment, right?
I think the reason it's on our
That's correct.
agenda is
Just
to-
like an update.
Right, and also to make sure that we're clear about what it is. And we did try to get through all 5 contracts at the last meeting. And, you know, we all know most of what each one is, but that's why it's good today to just fill in some of the blanks. Okay, Commissioner Murray, how's our?
Yes.
I went by to see it the other day. It's really
Coming along.
so vivid.
The hope is that it'll be finished by the 20th of January, which is our Martin Luther King celebration. I've got a few flyers I'll pass
Oh,
around.
good. We were wondering.
So it is the Sunday, right?
Yes.
Sunday the 20th, okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And we'll have somewhat of an unveiling at that time. But I can't tell you how disappointed some people are that we're not having the art exhibit with the students. They're looking forward to that again.
You know, and there's also some people who are disappointed that we're not doing the juried art
Yes,
show.
yes, that too, yes.
But I think that what we're doing is we're coming at it, some of the same goals in a different way, so. So 2 p.m.
Yes.
And is this is a joint?
Yes, we are
thing
one
with
of the
city?
sponsors. Yes,
Right,
we are
and
one of the sponsors. The mayor will be there, other city officials. Was pleased to see a video, which was nice.
That was great.
You're welcome to say something about it.
You know, they send us the, how many people have looked at it, and that's had an enormous number of viewings.
Yes, we will still share it because Father Andrew created a GoFundMe campaign to support the project, so we will share that on the Facebook groups again. And he's been sending video updates of the mural.
So it should be finished
That's
from Father
great.
Andrew by the 20th for an unveiling.
Just over a week, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Does he have some helpers?
There are groups that are helping to include the homeless. There was a group there of building African American resilience in families, BRAF. Got the acronyms wrong. And some volunteers. Yes,
Does that help? I mean, or is that more work?
I think that helps.
Good.
That was the plan. Yes, so a lot of excitement.
That's very exciting.
So if you could make it on the 20th, that would be nice. 849 is catering the food and guest speakers and things of that nature. Youth
Great.
involved, and so it'll be nice.
That's great.
Thank you.
So you have a flyer or something to promote
Oh,
the
yes.
unveiling? No, okay.
The unveiling,
This is
that's,
the one that was-
yes,
okay.
yes. But I think there will be more of a formal church unveiling. I can't speak for Father Green, but, you know, this will be an unveiling.
So will
Madalena,
the
could you-
artist be
Yes.
at the service?
Yes.
Madalena, could you put your mic on just for the minutes person? Okay.
But this is actually a good segue into the whole question of trying to get more social media coverage of all these things. I think it's great because you've been posting it on these other groups, like downtown, neighborhoods, whatever. But if there's parts of what you're doing that you think would benefit from some more coverage, with an eye to, by May, having a really good sort of overview of the year in photographs and in things that people have created. So I think when you as you come up with, as you meet about the exhibit or something, either see if Madalena can sit in with you or just make sure she knows. But I think and we do, it's great to keep taking pictures of the art with people.
Yes.
They're fun.
Madam Chair, I did
Yes.
just want to, I did call Madalena before today saying, oh, I saw that I'm supposed to say something, so let me kind of talk to you. I know you guys have all been really good at just reaching out to her directly, which is what she should be, and just responding. But one of the things that she did ask, and I will be following up, is that commissioners that she has not been able to get some time with to sit down and talk to them, I'm going to be trying to help coordinate that so that she has those times, including myself, to get that with her. And then a big part of her being here today was some of this stuff that's going on, the Bernberg installation. She knew a little bit about what was going on with Desert X. So we appreciate you being here and all that you do. And I'm glad that everybody's just going directly to her when they know they have things to be
Yes.
publicized.
It would be fun if we, again, for this exhibit in May or for maybe the NUSA conference, had a 10-minute video with, just little bits of everything narrated by Commissioner Brenner, who I believe has some experience in this. On-air talent.
We need to work on that.
Yes, well, it is,
Yeah.
again, as I said, in this year, I have dropped a couple of days at work, so I have a better schedule and can have a life again. I'm very excited about that.
Which is great. And, I think what's nice is that we have all the pieces. And I think by May or June, we'll be able to tell the story of what we've been trying to do and make a really good case for how we should be able to operate differently. I mean, the ordinance was made to have developers pay in and then put some art in their project and get reimbursed. And because of the ups and downs of the economy, sometimes nobody's building and sometimes they don't want any art or it's gated or, and nobody's ever gone back and looked and said, what is our goal? I mean, where do we want there to be art and who should do the art? And not just wait for somebody else to say, I'll put this piece of art here if you give me my money back. So I think that there's a good story developing of all the ways you can have art in the community and have people interact with it, not just drive by it all the time.
So number 8, C8, relocation of the sculptures. Don't have much to report on that, I'm afraid.
We're going to go on a scavenger hunt for the...
we're gonna go look for these mysterious pads that are supposedly waiting for the John Clement sculptures to be put there. But anyway, unfortunately, there's been no movement on that as yet, so
But we sort of
hopefully
are
we'll have
aiming
more
for
news.
May
Yeah,
to be
it would be
able
nice
to-
to have, by
get
the end
them
of our
repainted.
season.
And,
Well-
we should mention for the minutes that Earl
Delos Van Earl.
has in the past painted the sculptures for the city, including these, I think, and
Yeah.
is able to also handle moving and reinstalling art.
Right.
He's one of the artists. He did the warm sands.
Oh, that's nice.
So he did, that's his art, but he also takes care of other art. So I think that will help us to know who to go to when it's time to
Right.
move them.
Well, and I should have let you know, Commissioner Yanni, city manager has asked that the request to move the Clement pieces go on one of the upcoming city council agendas, I believe, for the 23rd
Oh,
this month.
Okay, so we should have some
Terrific.
good
Yeah.
pictures or something for
Yeah.
them. And this little map with, with little X's, like a treasured map, right? Yeah, and I mean, I
Yeah,
think.
so that's been the mistake. We had approved this a long time ago, as all of you know. But it has yet to make it to city council, so that's kind of why it's been in limbo. So hopefully we'll have some news, yeah.
The other thing I think we have to think about is what, if anything, should go on the sites that these are moving away
Leaving,
from.
right.
Each of them, unfortunately, is very crowded into, certainly visually, if not, like the one that's on North Palm Canyon is physically crowding the sidewalk. And the one in front of the Palm Canyon Theater is sort of visually in front of the marquee. And the one in front of the Regal Theater is, you know, you drive by and now there's their signs and there's a tree and, you know. So maybe nothing goes there, but there will be concrete pads left, so we should think about
The
cleaning
one
it
in
up.
North Palm Canyon, as I was sitting in the coffee shop one day, a truck hit the sculpture, so anything that
Oh dear.
goes there should be
You
much
remember when the one
lower.
in Warm Sands got completely destroyed by someone?
Yeah, like a
Ran
delivery
into it,
truck
like, on
hit it.
Oh, man.
Yeah. What about, I even hate to say the word, but bicycle racks?
Oh.
Do they exist?
That's
or are they-
another, I don't, any updates on the bicycle rack?
Jennifer told me we have them now.
Oh, we
So
do?
right, so if we have locations for them, we can start making arrangements to put them out there.
We could do
Okay.
that, or maybe we should get them
We
to
picked them.
sustainability.
Right. We had picked locations a few times, right?
The bagel.
Outside Towny
Tiny
Bagel, outside Bevmo, and outside Interior Illusions.
And the reason was, there were bus stops there, the Buzz and also the regular transit.
That's by Bevmo, yeah.
Right.
Towny we like because it has a wide sidewalk and there's a lot of foot traffic there and bike traffic. And Interior
have one of
Illusions
those
we
circle-
liked.
they
Yeah,
have
we
one
were
of
gonna
those
move
white
that
ones.
out. Yeah, we were gonna take that out and replace it with one of the artist designed ones. And then same thing with the Interior Illusions because there's a lot of Cheeky's gets a lot of traffic there and stuff like that. So.
And the Buzz just started up again,
Yeah, I saw that somewhere.
so, good. All right.
So what do you want to meet about those and go over those, or like how can we? Okay.
So we can send something good to the council, just that's clear.
Yes.
I mean, apparently, however many years ago that this first got brought up, there were members of the then council that questioned why we were moving things. But I think we have to go in with the assumption that if we make a good case for why we'd like to move them, that there's no reason for anyone to object. It may have been there wasn't a plan, or just maybe never even got to the council. It was just various council members that said something. So I think we should just assume that if we find the right places and, you know, have a plan, that it'll be
We
fine.
can make it happen.
Okay.
So back to the flag.
Yes,
right?
so the last thing is, I would like the commission to approve the 964 public, what did I say? It was called?
Land use.
Use permit fee for Desert X Western Flag Project in Palm Springs as our way of sponsoring Desert X.
You have a
So I
question?
need a
I'll second.
Okay. Does anyone, you want?
Discussion?
I
You
wanted
want-
to ask a question. So the art piece is so the smoke is non-polluting?
It's
Is
a
it-
It's a
video.
monitor.
It's all video.
It's a video.
Yeah. Oh, I know, so it's an LCD video on a gigantic screen of a non-polluting smoke.
What do you mean, is the thing that he took the video of?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's not. It's like a colored,
Okay,
like, smoke.
okay.
You know, it's like when you go to a concert and they're like, poof, poof, and you breathe it in. It's something
And does
like
it
that.
change from day to night or something, or it lights up at night only? There's something about.
I really don't know about this particular work, but I know about his work as an artist, but I don't know about the video itself. It would make sense that it would either shut off. I would expect it probably needs to shut off at night since it's like kind of near residential. So it'll probably shut down or go to, it'll probably,
Or
yeah.
it dims or something.
Dims or
There's something about
something.
that. But what's nice is that Desert X, I mean, it's a month away, and this is the only site in Palm Springs that worked. There was something, they were looking at the boxing club, they were looking at various places, and, they have to find an artist who wants to do something in a place that's safe and accessible and everything else, and they just couldn't find anything. And they're going to the Salton Sea, and they're going to every other city in the Coachella Valley. So we almost didn't have one in Palm Springs, which would be too bad.
So,
So-
I wish we knew where it was, but
It's
Which
near the
side of the
visitor
street?
center? I mean, does it matter for the purposes of us approving a permit? Or just approving to underwrite those costs?
I'm just wondering how people access it and if it's a site that's already been disturbed landscape-wise, or if it's raw land that hasn't been disturbed.
Well, it seems like it's already been approved, though, or, I mean, this is a project that's moving forward.
The
It's-
planning department is,
Going through the planning department approvals, it just needs the payment.
and
And they would look at that.
that was an issue. Originally, parking was an issue, and I think that the decision was that you could either park next to the visitor center to stop and look at it, or you could, sort of pull over as you went. But it's on private property that can be seen from the road. We were not asked to approve it as a piece of art. Just would we help them out by paying the permit?
Well, this is
So-
significantly less than they asked us for last
Yes.
time, so I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
I want us to be involved with Desert X in any way we can, and I strongly support this motion to this under $1,000 expenditure.
Right.
And again, it's
And
not,
they're very grateful because they went round and round about what kind of permits they needed. And they went to file their application, and the planning department said, that'll be $964, please. And so they wrote to Dr. Reddy and said, is there any way that you could waive this fee? Because, the piece itself costs like $150,000. So the last thing they wanted was that, that other $1,000. And he wrote and said, we can't waive it, but you can ask the Arts Commission if they would pay it.
Yeah.
And since we started the year with saying we wanted to pay mural fees, it seems to be sort of
I think it's a good fit.
analogous.
Yeah.
So, but I'll try to get the actual
Yeah, that's fine.
application, because they did have to answer those questions to get a land use permit. So, I mean, somebody was asking those questions.
So did we already make a motion?
Yes,
Yes.
I made the
Yes.
motion,
Sorry.
and
I
Commissioner
seconded it.
Brenner, so all in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to
Opposed?
abstain.
Okay, so 6 yes, 1 abstention. And you can
I'm
tell the
pro
planning
this
department
project,
to
but-
charge it. Charge it, please. Okay. All right, so
So I just have a short commissioner report, so just to update you quickly on the arts exhibition, so we had talked, our annual art exhibition that we normally do in February at the Desert Art Center, we spoke with them, we felt that it would be better to postpone it and do it later. And so now, and that actually works much better for the center because of their schedule. It actually interrupted their schedule, which nobody ever mentioned before. So at the moment, it's planned for May, basically the month of May, like a Friday to a Saturday, as it has been in the past. And we talked about this 30 by 30 at the last meeting, using, again, kind of like soliciting things through Instagram and kind of going in a more tech direction. Also appealing to people, having some sort of call, but again, trying to simplify all that like paperwork stuff, like not printing out all these calls for artists and not printing out all these things and stuff like that. So
It's fairly expensive.
which adds up and it's hard to sort of get going, as you all know. So anyway, so just wanted to update you on, so this idea is like 30 by 30, talking about public art. What does public art mean to you again? And it'll we're envisioning it as like sort of the capstone of our 30th year, so that'll be kind of like our last thing for the season, celebrating the 30th. And Sarah will be involved in terms of putting it together. Madalena will be involved in terms of getting, helping us with this visual social media presence that we're trying to build up and make a part of the exhibition. And we will fill you in on more. We have a meeting scheduled for next week, so that's where we're going to get some more details. But we have basically the dates are set, the concept is set. We need to just sort of like figure out all the ways to like get it out there and make it happen. So.
And then the Neighborhoods USA conference is it the last weekend?
It's middle of May.
Middle of May.
Yeah.
And they've asked us to help them do a bus tour of various places. And so they're going to go to the Art Museum. They're going to go to the Palm Canyon Theater, where they're going to do a short scene of whatever they're doing. And they're going to go see this exhibit. And some of it will be in the convention center for people to see. And so we get to share, this public art thing. Because I downloaded, there's a group called Americans for the Arts, which is a lobbying, coordinating group for the arts all over the country. And they have a big public art program. And for example, I was able to get the public art ordinance for every city in California that has a public art program. And it's really interesting. Some of them are 1%, some of them it's public money, some of it's developer money. And so the more we sort of zero in on what is ours, because it used to be that it was always 1% of public money. Like if somebody built a courthouse or a school, 1% went to art. Then it evolved into a half or 1% of commercial development. And now it's sort of swinging back the other way, like there should be some city money. So we're at a good point to sort of either change the focus or ask for more money, or I think that asking for more money from developers is probably a problem because there's less and less opportunities for them to put art in projects. But anyway, all of this sort of adds up to a really interesting, and it's interesting that the Neighborhoods USA conference is going to be here. It's a good time to sort of ask ourselves if we're really serving all the neighborhoods and not just the commercial part.
Mm-hmm.
So does anyone have any other comments under
I
commission
do.
comments?
I have 3 comments.
Oh.
One is that Desert X and the Palm Springs Art Museum are collaborating on a weekend of events that I think you should be aware of, since we keep talking about how Desert X isn't doing anything in the city, but actually we're doing this weekend of events that will be at the museum in Desert Hot Springs, out in the Coachella Valley, and then it will begin and end at the Palm Springs Art Museum, and there may be some performances sort of in the city. So that's the evening of February 28th is the launch event, and there will be a concluding event at the museum on March 3rd. So I just want you to be aware of that.
Oh, great.
Could we get like be on some email list or anything for?
You can subscribe to the psmuseum.org museum's
Are
email.
they covering that, though?
Yes, we will
Are they?
be. And if you're a member, you will receive a little information in the new members magazine. And of course, if you subscribe to Desert X, there will also
Yeah.
be an announcement about that. Like everything, it's kind of still in process, the weekend of programs, but there will be programs. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
See if we can get some.
It would be nice to have some local list of people who work in the arts, to have us be on their PR list that are sent out.
So,
yeah.
I mean, the museum, if you subscribe to the museum's e-blast,
No, I
that
get
will
those.
have that information in it, but nothing has been publicized yet. I'm telling you it now. So there it is. There it is. There will be a weekend of events. So, in the next few weeks, things will be firmed up. But, and then just a thought about bike racks. The museum doesn't have bike rack, and a lot of people hike. There's a hiking trail there, and people bring their bikes, and they're always tying things up to trees and
would be
poles, and
great.
so I don't know. I think there was one there, and then it was removed, and it was really ugly. So as you have that conversation, maybe if there's an
Yes, we
extra one
have
left
to.
over, think about locating something around there. And finally, a personal plug for an exhibition I organized with artist Todd Gray, Pluralities of Being, which opened last month and will be on view on the lower level of the Palm Springs Art Museum until April 7th.
I just saw it today. There's some really just dramatic ones. The one with the eyes that are.
Yeah. He was Michael Jackson's personal photographer in the 1980s,
right.
so he
Yeah.
explores African diaspora with landscape photography and portrait photography.
Do you like to give curatorial walkthroughs to
I would love to,
VIPs,
anytime.
right?
Anytime, guys. You know my number. And there are several public programs available to the public to meet the artist coming up on February 10th. As part of the Free Second Sundays, the artist will be doing a gallery talk. And then he will be doing a public talk on April 4th as well, in conversation with the Kauai artist, Gerald Clark. So,
Oh,
Is
that's
that-
fabulous.
Is
two
that
opportunities.
Thursday? We should-
That's on a Thursday night.
We should get an up-to-date list of. I'll try to get it from.
Yeah, Melissa,
Melissa
these are
probably.
free public
right,
talks.
and we
so
are nominally the
on those free Thursdays.
co-sponsors,
Exactly,
so
that's exactly right.
We should
yeah.
try to make sure that they send us an up-to-date list. We got sort of through the end of the year, and I don't think we've.
We got sidetracked.
Yeah.
Sunday.
If you want to, just get in touch with her and tell her we need to just know. I mean, she
Gerald
asked
Clark
us.
is an amazing speaker, so that will be amazing, I'm sure.
Which was that? April?
April 4th.
Fourth.
And the museum is also, this is for another conversation, but it's a commissioner comment. The museum is organizing a major retrospective of Gerald Clark's artwork. And as you know, he is also a public artist. So I would be happy to put any of the commissioners in touch with the curator for that exhibition in case we may identify some opportunities in the future to work with him on a
Yeah,
public art
that would be
project.
Amazing.
I'd be very happy to put anybody in contact. I think I should probably exclude myself from that conversation, but I think he is a very important artist. The Kauai people are of this land, and he's one of the more prominent contemporary artists, and it would be really great thinking about, the Agua Caliente Cultural Center opening to just, find a way for this Public Arts Commission to acknowledge Native arts and culture, and maybe working with Gerald is one way to do that.
Yeah, that's great, because he's been in my mind wanting to see if we could do something with him, and he's a really great community member. His activities are so diverse, and he brings just art plus everything around it. So he's just,
If you're trying to tell us something.
he's such a great asset to our community.
They go on if you wave. All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So.
I just want, Madam
yeah.
Chairman, I just want to say Black History Month is tied in with the exhibit. February 10th at 2 o'clock, you're invited. Todd Gray will be there I'm told to give a speech or talk.
Oh,
He's
good.
coming at 12, and then I
12.
think the mayor is doing
Right.
some kind of a
At 2 o'clock.
proclamation.
Yes, yes,
That's on the February 10th one?
yes,
Okay.
yes, Sunday. One more thing,
yeah.
if we're going around.
I was just going to say,
Oh, go ahead.
if all of you would just email them to me, just put them into a list. These few events that everybody's mentioned that other people should know about. Things on Free Thursdays, things with artists that we're connected with in some way. And I'll make them up into a little calendar just for us, so that we don't miss these
Well,
things.
that's nice.
So send me that one too.
Yes, lastly, I have a great appreciation for our 30th anniversary and what we have done and what will be done. However, I don't know if we have a documentary of sorts. What I'm getting at is that the Historical Society, Palm Springs, here in town, when I look at their videos, two things are missing: black folk and public art. So I don't know if we can go back and interview those who started this arts commission, but some kind of documentary of sorts as a historical document.
Actually, it might be fun, just while you're talking to all, the current commissioners. Catherine Huff, who was a curator
Right.
at the museum, was the first chair of the Public Arts Commission. And the very first piece of art that was acquired was the Kauai women sculpture, which I think was paid for half by the tribe and half by the city. But just interspersing a few people who were on the commission, and I went to the city clerk and I got the list of everyone that's been on the commission. They didn't have the first 10 years, but they have the rest of them, the last 20. They didn't keep records before that. But we could, some of them came to the launch of the 30th at the museum. But we could get a few people to talk about
Long range.
how it started and
Is it possible that, I don't know how the Historical Society works, but I know that Chair Sheffer, prepares sort of reports about summarizing what the commission has done. Is it possible to submit those reports or in related photography, really edited down pieces to the Historical Society? I think that would be one approach, is to simply offer the history. I think they work by whoever gives the history. And unfortunately, a lot of underrepresented voices just don't have this sort of infrastructure where you are taking photographs of everything and providing them. So it would just seem that the Historical Society might welcome that.
good. Why don't we see what we come up with by the end of the year, and maybe it can be put together in some way. Also, we were going to ask them if they'd like to have those.
It's open to the public to go research there, and it's at the library in downtown. And they actually might have a lot of information of the history of
That we don't,
that we
right?
don't know. They might. So the hard thing about, which Mara is saying about keeping content current when I worked at a university, is the minute we get into digital, people stop putting stuff in archives as much, because it's not, you don't have those pieces of hard paper that are easier to give to people, so it's more work to create those things to put into an archive, so it's really important to do that.
Let's see,
We can
maybe
find out what they have.
Yeah, and maybe we can at least write something about 30 years of public art with some statements from the people in the beginning, and then
Would be great.
what it's become.
As a
And part
historical
of this
document, yes.
this planning process is to talk about how to get more diverse artists. Whether it's been a long time since we really commissioned anything, or simply, there used to be a list of artists. Artists submitted their resumes if they wanted to be considered for something, and there was a list at least to start from. I think it's been years since anyone did that here. But those are the kinds of issues I think we want to talk about. So, all right.
Any other commissioner comments, reports, requests?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So,
If I may, I have one. I just wanted to ask with this letter with the Charles Sherman
Proposal.
sculpture.
that's
This-
just, if anyone thinks that that would be interesting to follow up on. It was not addressed to us, it was addressed to the Art Museum. But they were inspired by the sign that said Imagine Art here, so.
Well, how about if I just reach out to her and just get some
Just-
details on it?
Yeah, find out, and
Size,
find out
shape.
if it's.
I would try to make it clear if they already have the sculptures fabricated and if they have funding
Right.
attached
Oh, yeah.
to this proposal.
Right.
I would try to get that answer as soon as possible, because that,
Yeah, if that's,
Right, and
yeah,
then-
part of the research. Does it exist? Are you paying for it? What do you want from
And
us?
then it
The
could be
approval?
some
Sure.
sort of a
Yeah,
a
time frame.
loan exhibition.
All right.
Okay. So,
Is that it?
Jay, should this say anything about that we'll adjourn to a special meeting followed by a study session?
Don't believe so, but the next agenda should say adjourning to a study session
Right, and
after
we
the
should
special
have
meeting
a-
concludes.
Just
Oh,
enough of
I
an
see,
agenda
right,
for,
okay.
so, but do you think it should be on this since they're the same day?
We can edit if you like.
what's
or
the difference
adjourn.
between a special meeting and a study session?
You can't vote on stuff at a study session. You can only discuss
And
it.
we only need a very,
So that's why we
sort
have
of
to
a
have
list
the
of
meeting.
But this says a special meeting.
Right, that's
So
the
do we need-
short 15-minute meeting to talk about the mural.
So we
And then-
can't have a study session at a special meeting?
no,
No,
we'll.
it's
but
two
we'll
separate
adjourn it.
meetings
We'll
that have to
say-
be noticed
before in
twice.
October.
The
Thank you.
public meeting has to follow the posted agenda. And a study session, you can have like a list of topics that you're gonna talk about, but you don't have to spell it out into.
So Ann's
individual
question is
items.
basically, do we need to mention the study session at the same time as when we adjourn? So,
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea, because an agenda would have
Okay.
to go out the same day also, so,
Yeah.
okay, so would you like to do the honors?
This Public Arts Commission will adjourn to a special meeting immediately followed by a study session at 4 PM Thursday, January 24th, 2019, in City Council chambers or some other venue to be determined at Palm Springs City Hall, Palm Springs, California.
And we would certainly post the agenda.
Just-
If we can move it, the posted agenda would say where.
Correct.
So, and-
Does someone need
Do we
to
have a
second the
second?
adjournment? Okay.
Okay, if there's no objection, we are adjourned.